Hi guys, I'm Molly Licea with GRS University. Today we're going to take a little field trip. Some of you knew this was coming. Follow my Instagram page, you would have seen it too. But James Ehlers does prints for the Dirty Kansas bike race here in town. He's going to show us his process of engraving the plate and then pulling a print from that plate. Let's go.
Well, I have a wonderful electronic invention I want you to see. It looks something like this.
I've been doing the DK prints since 2013 was the first year that I did that. I was approached by Rob Gilligan and Christy Long at a meeting. I'd never even heard of the race, but I mean at the time it hadn't exploded. And I'm not a cyclist. So they pitched the idea to me and I was amazed that they wanted that a race like that would want a prize this nice. Like that they really supported they supported the arts, they were into the artistry of it, they were into the fact that this is a unique thing that we have here and paired with the uniqueness of the race that we have here. There's just a whole lot of respect for the entire process. They trusted my ability. They just said make something cool.
So they didn't give you even a general idea. They just said, do whatever you want.
Yeah, and that to me, that is a dream commission when someone looks at your work and they just trust you.
Hi guys, so here we are at ESU's printmaking room. For those of you who don't know, ESU is Emporia State University. We have an engraving arts degree, which is what I graduated with, and James here was my professor, but he also does printmaking, and so what we're going to show you is the process of him engraving and printing the DK plate print.
Yes. Okay, so whenever I do this particular plate, it's a little bit large for the positioning vise. So what I end up having to do is make this little jig for it to fit in. And all it is it's just a piece of masonite with, this was like a scrap 2x4 that I sliced down and then just nailed it to it. And all I do is just tape it to it. I've used packing tape in this case. This one I used blue painter's tape. It's really easy to come off and that actually holds it pretty good. So for this one I used the C-Max 1.8 round that I ground down to a 120 using that Easy Graver fixture, and I cut the entire plate with that and it works just fine. Alright, so I have the plate right here and this is a hand engraved plate. Do is I'm going to card ink into the lines here, wipe the excess off, and then run it through a press with some paper. So that's the basic Cliff Notes, but it's a little more complicated than that. So I have these pieces of mat board chip here, and I'm going to use this to card the ink onto the plate.
What ink do you use for this process?
I typically go for stiff inks, and in this case, I've been using Gamblin ink. I'm pressing pretty firmly onto it just to make sure that that ink gets into those lines. And sometimes you gotta use different sides of this because the mat board can start to bend. I want it to be firm. Got a little bend in the middle there, so it's useless.
Right, so you don't have to worry about light pressure or anything on this. You really want to work the ink down into the engraving.
Absolutely. I saw that I missed the side there. Alright, so I'm going to card some of that excess off here. Okay, so the material that I'm going to use to wipe the excess ink off is called tarlatan, and this is what it looks like before it's covered in ink. Okay, and so I'm going to start off wiping the bevels here. Just a little puddle there.
So what's the importance of the bevels when you're making a print?
Couple of things. One, it's just a plate presentation, image presentation. You don't want to have if you don't have clean, smooth bevels when you go to print, there'll be ink buildup all around it, and you'll have this kind of sloppy looking kind of box around your print. You don't want the edges to be a distraction.
Right.
The other thing is, I mean, you can bevel a plate without going through the trouble of polishing it, which I polish these, and run it through the press, and it'll print just fine. It just won't look good. We need to bevel the plates when we send it through the press, because if these edges are sharp, with all that pressure that's being pressed through the cylinder, it can cut through the paper, or even possibly cut into the blankets to get put over it, which you'll see those too.
Right. So I know you can overwipe the plate. Can you give them an idea of how much to wipe off?
Yeah, so if you are used to, if you've never done a print but you've engraved a lot, you put ink or enamel or some kind of paint or whatever in your lines to increase the contrast, you're going to be used to wiping those down to where it is clean, like it doesn't look fuzzy at all. If you do that on a plate, you're going to end up over wiping. If we look over here, because there's a little discoloration on the copper up here, but if we look right here, you see there's a little bit of kind of fuzziness around the line, and that's what you want whenever you go to print. If you wipe it like you're actually inking up an object, you're gonna end up taking too much out.
Okay.
Also, you're gonna have to go around and kind of like spot check it, and then tilt it in the light like this to see if there's any excess ink anywhere. There's plate tone, where plate tone can occur on the plate where there's, like if I tilt this in the light, if I look next to that E right there, see it's a little hazy. Down here it's reflective. I want it to all look like that. If it's hazy like that, then I might have a little pocket of gray whenever it goes to print. And then the last bit is to wipe the edges. You can use an old shirt. I don't have any old shirts. Like sometimes I'll cut up old shirts, or a paper towel. And don't use a cheap paper towel. You actually want to use, I know you're laughing right now. You want to use something absorbent. Okay, so I have a little template drawn out here, so I know where to place the plate and the paper so it's centered. This was made for a few different prints, so that explains all the different lines or boxes or whatever on it.
Okay, so now what do we need to do?
All right. So I need a clean hands person whenever I go to print, because when my hands are too bad right now, I don't want to get ink on those felts, because if I get ink on the felts, then ink can get on all of my prints from then on. So TV's Molly Isaiah is going to be my clean hands person. So there's paper in the water there that we're going to print on. She's going to hold it up at an angle, just let the water drip out of that corner. You don't want to shake the paper. You don't want to shake the paper because that will actually retain the ink. Just let it drip.
What kind of paper is this?
This is Hanamula copper plate. Hanamula is a paper company out of Germany. I've also heard it pronounced here Hanamule, if that rings a bell to anyone. They also make really good paper for digital photography. So right now she's rolling out the excess water that's been trapped in the paper. So it's just a little damp now. And we had that paper damp so it conforms to the grooves that are on the plate, because we are actually embossing the paper. You can feel it whenever the print's done. If you rub your hands over a dry print, you can feel the raised area.
And if it's too wet, it's gonna make your ink bleed, right? Is that?
No, it's oil-based ink. But what will happen if the paper has too much water in it? It will actually reject some of the. I mean, even though there's all that pressure going on, it won't print as cleanly. So if you do an engraving with lots of really fine lines in it, those are the harder ones. Those can be some of the harder ones to print. If your paper is overly saturated whenever you go to print, some of that fine detail may not come out. So she's going to crank it through the press. There's a wheel crank that's on this press, and she's going to just like Captain Pirate Captain. If you stand on the other side and pull it towards yourself, it's actually quicker. Molly likes being like on a ship.
It makes me think of a pirate ship. That's why I want to do that. But just let me have my day, James.
I just want to point this out for just in case our viewers notice this. There is a little bit of something there, and I can easily get that out with an eraser. It's not a huge deal. Sometimes that happens, unfortunately. But anyway, yeah, that's not a huge deal to get out.
Can you Vanna White it? So after you pull it off the press, what do you do with it?
Okay, so this is drywall, and I'm just gonna put, this is just some cheap paper I'm gonna put on top, because the ink is still wet. And then I just put a sheet of drywall on top, and then let it sit.
So easy.
Easy.
Pure genius.
I invented all of this. So I invented the press, I invented engraving, I invented all of it.
Thanks for watching, guys. This week's suggested Instagram user is Alexander School. Alexander has actually taught here several times for Grandmasters, and he has his own school as well. With those courses, he posts on his profile different photos. He also posts a lot of mini tutorials, which are really cool to watch, so go check him out. If you would like to be our suggested Instagram user, be sure to tag us at GRS Tools on your next post, like and subscribe to our videos, and then follow us on all of our social media outlets. Now it's gonna get a little awkward, okay? So we need to have this talk about how clingy and a little bit stalkerish that you've been kind of following me everywhere, but whatever. I need a little space, and we're gonna have to take a break. So we're gonna take a break, and we'll be back later for season 3. It's time to go. Goodbye. That's it.